Hey there, comic book friends, I'm Travis, and this is another edition of No Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do superheroes and or Ethan doesn't read them or review them along with me. These are books from the last week of September. First up, we're going to talk about East of West issue 6. Book continues to fire on all cylinders, giving us lots of interesting story. We find out some more about this Solomon character who was, part of this council of the Americas, and him deciding that he's not going to go along with the rest of the council that basically is ushering in the apocalypse. And some of the conflict that goes on there. We get introduced to a new character, a guy who's basically the equivalent of like a space-age Texas Ranger who was administering justice for quite some time across the country and then retired so he wouldn't become one of the basically one of the out-of-control powered maniacs that he had been putting down. But he's going to reholster his pistols and go on this conquest to destroy the council because the council obviously is abusing their power, bringing on the apocalypse and stuff. So really interesting. Some other things going on there. Some political weight is definitely transpiring in this issue. We don't see any of the Four Horsemen in this one, and we don't see the Child of Death either, but you can tell they're in the background playing in amongst this other stuff that's going on. Really intriguing book, really interesting. Like I said, those first couple issues were shaky, but man, it is going full on. Really enjoying the heck out of the comic, and it doesn't feel like a slow read anymore, where you're waiting for all the pieces to get put together in typical Hickman style. With a lot of his stories, I feel like I'm really getting enough out of every issue to not think that, wow, this would definitely be reading better in trade. It's reading great in singles. So very excited by that this book. Great, just loving it. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about Fatale, issue number 17. Another really awesome book. Josephine is really kind of coming into her own in this her reawakening and still not knowing who she is, but discovering she has this power and this ability and what she's doing with that. Kind of going on a thrill ride. Really curious to hear if there are any ladies out there that are reading this book that want to comment on it. What your take is of Josephine, her sleeping with almost all the guys in the house in this 1990s setting here in Seattle. Is she manipulating them? What's your opinion of the character? I find the character both very intriguing and very frightening, just because of her power that she has and over people is pretty alarming. Even to the point to where she discovers that she literally has power, not just that people like her and will do what she wants. She literally has power, as she tells one of the guys in the house, Rick, to basically kill himself after he tries forcing himself upon her sexually, and the result of that is pretty dramatic. And of course, you got this other story going on where our writer from the very beginning, from the very first parts of this book, is being drug along across the country, trying to hide him. As instructed by Josephine, instructed this guy. And so that's also really curious to see where that's all going to play out. And then, of course, we get little hints of this policeman / serial killer that's also hunting for Josephine, who doesn't know about all this stuff that's happening, that she kind of set in motion, but doesn't even realize she's set in motion because of her amnesia. So really, really cool, really interesting book. Really enjoying it. After there was a time in the history of this book that I wasn't so much. Great book. Probably reads better in trade. I'm really enjoying every single issue. It gives me time. I'm enjoying them in singles because it gives me time to read it and think about the book. before the next one comes out. And if I was reading through it really fast, I don't know that I would ponder on all the beats that I get to with it like this. So I am enjoying it in singles. Okay, next up, I want to talk about Jupiter's Legacy issue 3. You know, I'm not sure if I ordered issue number 4. I was kind of on the book, kind of interesting. There's some politics and behaviors of the writer of this book, Mark Millar, that I don't particularly care for. And so I was on the fence as to whether I was going to keep getting this book because social conscious wise, I don't know that I want to spend my money, give my money to people who come across as kind of a cretin at times. So I was unsure. I'm still kind of unsure. And so between that and the story, I was kind of like, I don't know, where are we going? Are we actually going to go someplace interesting? Wow. This issue really lays it out there and shows us where the book's going to go in pretty dramatic and exciting ways, I think. There's some incredibly vicious panels in this where they do not hold back on the violence. I don't know that the violence is long and drug out, but it is very brutal and very quick. I like the action scenes in the book because they happen so fast. It's just like, boom, something happens. You don't see a buildup of a superhero flying into the panel and then engaging whatever they're engaging. It's just bam, and it happens. And most of the time, you're seeing the result of the bam, not even the bam itself, which I find that a really exciting way of telling the story. Because, most of the time in superhero comics, we always see the wind up and the punch and the hit and then whatever happens. So you feel like you see it all happens, nothing happens quickly. You're getting a preview of it. Whereas in this book, lots of times the things that happen, you're seeing after the punches are thrown, these super beings are whipping in really fast and smashing something. So you're just seeing the after effects of it, of whatever, being slammed around and whatnot. Really, that was very exciting about the book. Plus just where this is all going. There's a superhero in here with mental powers to kind of make you see whatever he wants to see, kind of puts you into a state where you're kind of in your own head. That guy is frightening. Cool powers. I mean, the powers have been, it's like there aren't other superheroes with those powers, but the frightening way in which this guy uses it is just really disturbing. I think, and very fascinating too. The whole book, I think, is going to take a turn potentially for very disturbing as these heroes change their roles in society. They've gone from what we typically see as heroes' role in society as being kind of the person that battles the good and evil, but only after it's already exposed itself and whatnot. Whereas here, the heroes look like they're going to take control. They're going to take control of everything because the world and the country is kind of a mess. So they're just going to lay down the law, whatever that law they choose for that law to be. So could be really interesting. So I'm hoping I ordered the next issue. If I didn't, I'm going to have to figure out how to pick up issue 4, I think, and read it just to see where it goes because I'm curious to see about that. So, see first anything. Revival issue 14. Great issue. Holy crap! There's some creepy stuff in this. Of course, we got our little girl that in the very first issue of this that had awoken in the morgue of the funeral home. She's in this, of course. She's being taken home by Martha here. She's always talking kind of weird. She's always talking about the fact she can hear stuff, and the reason Martha can't hear this stuff is because she's an older person and has kind of shut herself off to these other things that you might hear. So we get a direct confrontation between the ghosty figures and what they represent and what they might be about. And Martha, who of course has seen them interact with revivers before. And there's some great scenes in here. There's kind of I want to say it's an Apocalypse Now scene where Martha rises out of the water and goes after somebody, which was pretty cool. You get these really interesting. You get this thing with we get to see a little more exposure of Martha and the professor from the college that she went to school at. We get exposure to them, what the relationship might have been, what it is now, which was really weird and weary. The final pages of this book are terribly frightening. The little girl feels like their parents are disappointed in her, you know, even though she's come back to life, they're kind of disappointed, disappointed that she died in the first place and all this stuff, and disappointed that she didn't see God. And so she takes action to ensure that she doesn't miss him the next time if she dies again or that kind of thing, which is pretty frightening. I won't spoil it for anybody who is reading it in trade or whatever, but a pretty alarming page and pretty cool. Still really like this book. I think it's an excellent book. Like I said, I will continue to say that to me it feels like part Twin Peaks, part the poem, the Silver Spoon anthology, or Spoon River anthology, and there was something else I was thinking that it reminded me of too. All kind of blend together, this kind of, telling these bits and pieces of stories, these people's lives, and how they kind of mesh and work together, all stuck in this place that they're stuck in. Just a really cool book. Really enjoy it. Really excited every time the book comes out. So excellent. And of course, another fantastic book, Saga issue 14. I am absolutely loving this book. I don't care if very little happens in this book. The magic for me in this book is Brian K. Vaughan's dialogue, the discussions between the people, their interactions with each other, and Fiona Staples' ability to put that look on the page to where it conveys so much for us as a reader, or at least for me as a reader, emotionally. And I don't care if there's a whole lot going on as far as are they moving this plot forward super fast right now? I mean, there were some exciting issues before where things were happening really fast. Now things have kind of slowed down. Now that we've got a set and a setting. They're not right on the tail of of our star-crossed lovers and their child that shouldn't be. We've kind of backed up in time so we can get filled in on this stuff. And for me, the real magic is the conversations between these people. It feels ridiculously, we've got, alien people with wings and technology, and another group with horns, ram horns and magic and all this, flying wooden spaceships, seal people, just all kinds of craziness in here. And I cannot get over how real the conversation and the reaction, the response to stuff feels. It amazes me how real it feels. And I think that's the magic of the book for me, is that I can just see these conversations really happening. People really talk this way, act this way, feel this way, regardless of the crazy situation that's in it, which is great too, for its own right. A page that's been talked about probably by everybody, this magic moment between Sophie, the slave girl here, and Lion Cat, her just being a 6-year-old, naming all this stuff off, and a very touching moment in there where Lion Cat says, of course, the only word that he ever says, lying, is pretty magic. I also think there's another great moment where Marco's mother is having a conversation with the writer of the romance novel that kind of potentially launched this whole craziness. They're having a private conversation, and while they're having a private conversation and the camera kind of backs away, you get a little bit of narration from Hazel, from the baby, and she comments on the fact that that Grandma never loved anyone like Grandpa, but she did love again. Just great stuff like that is just is absolutely amazing for me. Like I said, this book doesn't have to have crazy stuff going on, shooting, chasing, running, whatever. It doesn't even have to have the absurd moments that we have in a lot of these books, with the 30-foot testicles or the bukkake scenes and all that kind of stuff. Just to have this amazing stuff that goes on, just simply on the page and simple dialogue. And I've probably gone on and said amazing enough times about this book. So that is issue 14 of Saga. Just a great book that I don't understand why people aren't reading it. Next up, a new book. This is Sex Criminals, issue number 1. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to get this book. I knew I was going to plan on getting it. I like Matt Fraction when he can kind of just make his own quirky whatever. As a general rule, kind of disappointed in Satellite Sam. It seemed too straightforward and bland, whereas this one goes off in left field. This one feels like Casanova only in the sense that the story premise and the idea is kind of way out there. It really could have happened in a Casanova book as far as that goes. Matt Fraction's old independent work that he's done before. The premise here is we have this this girl. Of course, it's called Sex Criminals, and what you see for a tagline for it is that they there's this woman and she meets this guy, and both of them, when they climax during sex, time stops and they do criminal things. Very simple sounding and whatnot. Maybe not great. That had the potential to be crap. And we've been using a lot of sex lately. You got the book called Sex, which hasn't been very good. A lot of these books that have sexual overtones in them have not really been that great, in my opinion. This one's completely different. Partially to the fact is that it takes its time, and like this first part of the story is mostly kind of like a journaling or a dialogue of the female character telling us how she got where she is now. And it really is more of an exploration of, here's a girl who reaches puberty and is discovering her own sexuality, and in the process of discovering that sexuality, she's also hit with this double whammy that she has this power that when she climax, time stops for a period of time. Not like we all talk about, oh yeah, time stopped when I, great sex, whatever, but literally time stops. And her exploring, trying to figure out, is this normal? Is this not normal? What do I do? She goes to the public school first and the public school libraries and tries reading their stuff on sex ed to see if it can give her answers, which of course, as we all know here in America anyway, the public sex ed stuff is pretty minimal at most. It certainly doesn't talk about your feelings or that sort of stuff that she would expose to. She goes and talks to what she calls the slutty girls and to see if they can give her a thing. There's a hilarious scene there where one of the slutty girls decides to help her out by explaining sex to her, and really it's just a litany of bizarre sex acts that you can do. Not really helpful either. Just a lot of exploring as far as that goes, as she's trying to figure her way out, kind of decides it's just what it is. She's going to abstain and all these different kinds of things. She ends up meeting a guy named John, and John's really witty. John's really smart. John, he kind of embraces a lot of the stuff that she embraces because she's kind of a book kind of a person, very well read and whatnot. Heck, she's saving a library. That's one of the things she's doing. And she's at this party that has to do with saving the library, and she meets this John character, and she ends up sleeping with him, having sex with him, and discovers that he does the same thing. And both of them freak out when it happens and they're both awake, because they both assume that they somehow accidentally brought the other one into their world. And then they discover that, no, they both have this ability. And so now we're going to explore forward. And it's just a great book that kind of also, besides discussing her sexuality, she's got all this other stuff going on in her life. Her father has been killed when she was a young child. Her mom is not dealing with the whole death of her husband very well. She's got all this emotional drama going on, along with this exploring, trying to discover her sexuality and whatnot. Really smart book. Really thoughtful book, I think. This is one of those books I'm curious to hear some girls' opinions on it, because obviously I'm a guy, and to me this seems quite natural, and makes sense, and assumptions that you might make as a person. But it's written by a guy, and it's a guy's perspective, and I'm taking it as a guy's perspective. Maybe, some of you girls are reading this and going, no, this is, that's ridiculous. I can't imagine this being that way or whatever. And cool if that's the case, if I'm misled here. Okay. But I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next issues. If it stays like this, even with the potential of a crime that's going to be going on around it, if it stays along this kind of a vein and this kind of exploration, I think it's going to be a great, really smart book. Chip Zdarsky's art is perfect for this. It's got a nice indie feel to it, which is perfect for telling a a story that isn't, capes and cowls and that sort of thing. Great stuff. Okay, the one book I'm really not that excited about, Mysterious Strangers. I want to like it. I like the look of the book, but I'm just not feeling it. And this ends this second part of this story arc with these kind of Beatlesque guys who are going to draw in this Sun King dude and, destroy the world and bring a new awakening amongst whatever. And there's not enough to this book. It's like a Saturday cartoon, okay? Which makes it fun in one way, but I'm not giddy reading it. Like, I feel like, to some degree, like Five Ghosts, for instance, is kind of like a Saturday morning, old school Saturday morning cartoon. It's just lots and lots of fun with lots of crazy stuff going on. This one just doesn't quite capture that. Like I said, I like the art style of it, but it doesn't, there's not enough there. There's not enough actual substance to the story for me to really enjoy it, I guess. I want there to be a little bit more something, and I don't know exactly what that is. Sorry that I can't define it better than that. It's just not really doing it for me, and I believe this is the last issue I'm getting. I don't think I ordered any more of it. I wanted to like it more, but it feels like I said, like a weak Saturday morning cartoon to me. It's kind of what it feels like. So there's that. And then finally, The Wake, issue 4. You think this book can't get any more crazy. Last issue, had my hair stand on end. I actually went out and bought, as a lot of you know, I went out and bought an actual original page from that book because it was so exciting and so just, kind of action-packed. John Carpenter's The Thing, Alien, just really intense, really, really claustrophobic, crunched-in horror going on, and this issue tops that, if that's possible, which obviously it is, because this one did. It's just amazing. The first page and last page of all these books are just mind-bending in a lot of ways. The first page of this one is absolutely crazy. You get this thing 1,000 years ago, I believe it was, out on the plains. There's some technology there. There's just no way it should be there that gets used. But it doesn't say it's Earth. I wonder, and I'm curious about you guys that are reading this book, is it Mars? Because, last issue 3 had these, the opening page was showing like Mars, the planet Mars. And I don't understand why we're showing the planet Mars. Is this happening someplace else? Was that happening someplace else? That whole thing? I mean, are these guys from someplace else? I don't know. It's just really fascinating. And of course, the final page, there's a bigger, badder monster than the monsters they're already dealing with. That's crazy. The in-between of them running around, a character that I'm amused by ends up not potentially dead like we thought they were in the last issue. That's fun. They continue to do this great job of mixing in like fairy tale kind of stuff, or not fairy tale, but old wives' tale or old legends that are out there. They get this legend about a mermaid that's in a well that they won't that townspeople won't rescue way back in the day, and the consequences of not rescuing her, what the mer people do, and what happens to the city and stuff. Mixing that in also, just really, really exciting. This book is just incredibly intense. Very excited for the next issue. Absolutely loving it to pieces. Great piece of sci-fi horror. That's what I'm going to call it. It falls under that, like I said, that category of John Carpenter's The Thing or Aliens. It's like I said, claustrophobic. In the fact, because you're under all this water, they're very limited on space and movement and stuff like that, and it's just constant, intense barrage from the monsters that are in it. Absolutely a great book, and yeah, that's issue 4 Awake, and an incredible week of comic books, with the exception of The Mysterious Strangers. This has just been probably one of the best weeks of comics in a very long time. I mean, it's great to be able to get these kind of comics all in the same week. It makes the rest of the weeks look potentially kind of sad. But looking forward to going forward this week as I'm filming this. Of course, some of the new independent books come out that I will be talking about. Going to be a little bit of a change. I'm going to be actually be talking about fewer No Capes books for the first half of October. I'm actually going to drive across state and into another state and across the country, and I'm hoping that it's all going to work out, that I'm going to meet up with Damien, Sleepy Reader 666, and we are going to do, hopefully, a No Capes video, the two of us actually physically together, talking about some No Cape books. So the books that both me and him are both reading, we're going to save those books for the first 2 weeks of October, and then we're going to get together 2 or 3 weeks. Can't remember what. I have to look at my calendar to know for sure. And then we're going to review all the books that we've read together all in one big, hopefully. And that should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Whether anybody else is or not doesn't matter. So, anyway, but I will still do some smaller No Capes of the books that that Damien isn't reading. So I'll still be reviewing those. So thanks for hanging in there and watching, and yeah, hope you're reading great books too. Bye.